Film club.
That is 2 years of people listening to you go, film club, film club. Thank
I
you.
looked at it. Oh,
No, what are you looking at?
I looked at myself the other day. I was like, I missed that beard.
Thank you very much for joining us, episode of Film Club. I'm one, your host, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the bearded Andy Dalton. Andy, we're here for a very special episode of Film Club today.
Yeah, it's 2 years, man.
2-year celebration. We're not here for this is additional to your regular scheduled Film Club programming. This is us just celebrating 2 years of doing this.
Because we like being daft.
And we thought we'd start with taking a look at the best trilogies ever made. We mentioned this weeks and weeks and weeks ago that we might do this.
I forgot.
Yeah, and we finally sat down and thought, right, let's take a look at what the best trilogies in cinematic history.
We kind of struggled a bit, actually, didn't we?
We actually did. This is surprisingly difficult. So we have 5 each.
And we don't reckon that people are going to agree with us.
Nope.
We're going to just put it out there. Terminator's not here, sorry, because the third's not there. Indiana Jones, believe it or not, is not on there.
No Back to the Future.
No Back to the Future, yeah. So people are going to be absolutely hammering us, probably going, you fucking law shit, you.
And I heard from too many people, Jurassic Park. I'm sorry. Jurassic Park 1 is awesome. That's not a good trilogy, right?
Yeah, everyone goes about the Lost World.
But anyway, let's get started. Andy, start with your
So
number one.
mine, and this is going to be controversial as well. It's just one because I love it. I love Sam Raimi. It's Evil Dead trilogy.
Evil Dead.
It's been a while since I've seen Evil Dead 2, but the whole trilogy just kind of fits into itself so well. As I'm sure one of your suggestions later on
Well, I
is.
have yet to see Evil Dead, so sell me on it.
Evil Dead is just Sam Raimi being Sam Raimi. He's given like a low budget. He's been given like a horror film, but it takes the piss out of itself as well as being quite creepy and scary. And then at the end, you got Bruce Campbell, who it's basically written for Bruce Campbell. And the whole trilogy leads from inside a cabin and people getting possessed and people dying at the random things to the point where Bruce Campbell has his hand chopped off, wields a chainsaw in the future against an army of the undead, and it's hands down one of the fucking funniest horrors you'll ever see. Sam Raimi at his fucking finest, as well as Bruce Campbell.
Didn't this get a series?
I think it did, but I'm not worth
think it
watching.
did,
It got a remake as well. The remake was not too bad.
Interesting. Did it? So if I remember right, it was
Still not
kind
Sam
of
Raimi.
kind of known for its being a sort of like B-movie horror sort of thing.
Yeah,
That was its
low
vein.
budget B movie horror, but it doesn't take itself seriously. It takes the mickey out of itself as well. It's those little quirks that it has, like Sam Raimi. It kind of goes, yeah, I acknowledge that, and fuck it, this is who we are. Yeah, and Bruce Campbell like elevates this to a whole new level, and one of the best fucking lines in the whole film, ramming speed, which series, should I say, not film. Which, if you watch it, you'll get.
I've seen this because you've shown me that clip multiple times.
True. It's oh my god, it's so good. So me and Alex used to just watch this loads as a kid, especially Army of Darkness.
So
Ties it all together.
speaking of wonderful director with actor combinations, my first one's the Cornetto Trilogy.
I knew you'd put this.
Like, how else do you? What better combination of actors with a director is there within the space of comedy and sort of action comedy? And this is a trilogy in a slightly different way, where it's a thematic trilogy. And we've got a few more of those coming up on the list. These aren't like films that carry on one after another. These are films which are just linked with small ways. It's the same creative team, same like they're tackling sort of thematically interesting kind of linked stories, but also taking on separate genres. Obviously, you have Hot Fuzz, which started off the trilogy with.
Did I start it off? I thought it was Sean.
Sorry, you are right. You're right. You're completely.
Sorry.
They have Shaun the Dead, which is a zombie film.
Is it Edgar Wright, by the way?
Hot Fuzz, Edgar Wright, which is a buddy cop set in the
Hot Fuzz is so fucking. Well, they all are, but Hot
set
Fuzz.
in the English countryside, and then you finish off with a sci-fi spoof.
Yeah,
World's End.
Which I hadn't watched that in ages. And then I got around to it and I was like, no, actually, this is fucking good. Because everyone's like, yeah, it's not as good as the other two like this. No, I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's still excellent. I agree. Of the three, it always ranks at the bottom.
People proper went all out on that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I feel. But then I watched it. I was like, you know what? Nah, it's good.
I still think, for my taste, Shaun the Dead's the best.
Yeah, but that's understandable.
Loads of people argue Hot Fuzz, and you can't argue. The speed, the pacing, the chemistry, it's just exquisite.
Yeah, I like that.
Go on, hit us up, number 2.
Bourne Identity Trilogy. Bourne Identity was the original film, Jason Bourne. We have mixed opinions on this, me and him.
I'm not a fan, actually.
Yeah,
But
I love it. It was really realistic for me, action thriller, and a really good character. Brings a lot to his role. And as the films go forward, he wants to learn more about it. There's some quite there's some really good scenes. For example, the start of the second film, The Bourne Supremacy. There's some scenes that hit you there, and you go for the character. You want fucking Bourne to get through this, and you come to the end, how he actually finds who he is. That's the whole trilogy is about who am I sort of thing. It's a series about identity. It's a series in amongst that like kind of your very serious kind of James Bond. Except it's not James Bond. It's just a spy assassin. But it comes together so well, and it ends so well. But through that, it's there, and it's all over, which is kind of the reason he doesn't like it.
It was the film series which grounded the spy genre. It was a film series that took Bond and grounded it and made it kind of like a realistic, which Bond would then go on to do with Daniel Craig's
ironic.
run. For me, it was the introduction of chaos cinema, which put me off it. But some people love chaos cinema.
I think the worst example, the good example of the worst parts of chaos cinema is the intro to Quantum of Solace.
Yes, that's a great example.
Because I did not like. I remember sitting in the cinema and I was right at the front seats. I felt sick watching it.
Which again, that's Bond nicking from.
Which is quite funny,
Jason
yeah.
Bourne.
But no, Bourne trilogy, great, really great.
It's my second is another thematic one. So I'm playing fast and loose here with trilogies, but it's a Vengeance trilogy from Park Chan-wook.
I've only seen Old Boy.
Which it's made up of. Let me get this right. Lady Vengeance, Old Boy, and then Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. I think I have that backwards, actually. I think Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is first. And it's what it does is it tells, again, 3 distinct narratives, but all linked thematically through the theme of vengeance this time round. And Park Chan-wook's style is just so energetic when it needs to be, but then calm and collected when it needs to be. And he tells these sort of human but kind of depraved stories, which are somewhat unsettling, but also
very unsettling.
Yeah. In the case of Old Boy, it's very, very unsettling. But also, there's a sort of a line of sympathy that he builds into those as well. And I think having a director from the East, I think he's Korean. Could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And to have that sort of Eastern horror influence as well, like there are certain images from those films which are burnt into my head, and like I'll never forget them.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating that when you see that sort of westernization of something like Old Boy, when it was remade in the West, South Korean, when it was remade in the West, it just doesn't have the same impact. He's such a wonderfully talented director.
I do need to watch the other two.
They are fantastic. Maybe we'll do one here on Film Club sometime. But moving on, number 3.
One that everyone will agree with, and that's Toy Story.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know.
Is it the best animated trilogy ever made?
Yeah, I'd say.
I'd say so.
Yeah. I mean, when we were doing other trilogies and we were trying to find them all, it was rather quick for me because I forgot. The Toy Story one was the first that came to mind. It's just hands down, like, everyone loves it. From the first film, which could be a film in itself, it expands upon that and makes a deeper story, adds more depth to the characters that already had loads of depth to begin with. And that final scene in Toy Story 3, which everyone's admitted, everyone's cried to, man and woman alike,
I haven't.
Yeah, you did.
No, in Toy Story, I haven't.
You told me the other week that I said, what's the film? Unless it wasn't you.
No.
It might not have been you.
Up
then.
for a long time was the one that got me.
Oh yeah, fucking hell. And yeah, it's just it's a testament to the it's Pixar, isn't it? Yeah, Toy Story, Pixar. It's a testament to their studio. And if you think about what amazes me, especially with this, is there's loads of videos you can find online about the depths that Pixar were at in terms of financially and how Toy Story 2, the middle part of that trilogy, and they didn't even know where. I don't think they knew that they're going to be an ending. That it's going to be a trilogy. They just let's do Toy Story 2. The first was great. And that actually brought them out of financial despair, and they came out and they made this amazing trilogy that everything worked well for it. I mean, you see these second films, like Finding Dory, I've not seen it myself, or you look at like The Incredibles 2, not seen it again, and you're thinking, they're just making it for the sake of making it. But I think Toy Story, the trilogy, gives us great faith in Pixar and what they can do.
It's also a staple of the Pixar brand as well, because the first Toy Story was their first CG animated film. It was the first full length CG animated film, and that was a landmark animation. Then for Toy Story 2, they thought they were going to go straight to DVD, but instead it was I think were they owned by Disney at that point, and they came along and said, we're releasing this in cinemas, and they went, oh my god, no, you can't, it's not good enough, like it doesn't represent the Pixar brand. So they just tore it down and remade it basically from scratch to make it good enough. And so I've always got a personal connection with Toy Story, and let me know if this hits for you as well, right? Because Toy Story parallels in lots of ways our own lives, and especially being our generation. When Toy Story 1 comes out, you're basically the same age as Andy.
Yeah.
And then when Toy Story 2 comes out, they've aged him up chronologically at the same time. And then when Toy Story 3 comes out many, many years later, and Andy's off to college, and we were at college and university at the time. And
that's where it hits you.
Again, like so for our generation, there's this real personal connection to it. And then add in, it's called Andy.
Yeah, actually,
he's one of us.
Good point. Yeah, one of us.
It was always just that little personal connection of like, I really connect with that character.
He's like us giving up our Game Boys when we were younger.
Yeah,
and
saying goodbye to my Action Man.
Oh God, yeah. Your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles machine. Fuck that thing.
So from one traumatic childhood to another, my number 3 is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Now,
hands down, without a doubt.
This is Christopher Nolan taking a lifeless corpse of a franchise that had been milked dry by corporate greed and breathing creative life back into it.
That's a statement.
This is Nolan almost birthing the new generation of superhero film. Superheroes as a genre was not a thing pre-2008, I'd argue. We always called them action films and sometimes referred to as action fantasy films. Superhero as a genre wasn't a thing until you got to 2008, and even that's when The Dark Knight comes around, not Batman Begins. Batman Begins lays the foundation. It suddenly, out of nowhere, takes Batman seriously and just asks the question, what would Batman be like in the real world? And yeah, you've got to heighten that a little bit. But you bring in an auteur director like Christopher Nolan and you just let him do his thing. You let him do his thing with a franchise which at one point was the biggest franchise on the planet in cinema, and he would then somehow make again into one of the biggest franchises in cinematic history. And I think most people would agree the second one's going to be the best here.
Everyone always goes to the second one, The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. And I stand by that. I think that The Dark Knight is the best one.
You can't deny the other two. The other two are absolutely fantastic as well.
Phenomenal. Actually, similar to what we were just talking about, the Cornetto Trilogy, I think the third one gets way more flack than it deserves.
I love the third one.
It's still an exquisite film, an absolutely exquisite film. And I think it's more than any other superhero that's been made in the past 10, 15 years. Those are going to stand the test of time.
Yep.
Because they're exquisite films first. And they have superheroes in them.
And they're not overly CGI, are they?
No, yeah, he's very, very practically based in his production.
There you go. All the more reason.
Wonderful.
Next on the list, so there's 2 more left in my personal terms. We kind of like decided which one to do, but these next 2 that I want to do, it was hard to do this, but I feel that this hits the number 2 spot, and there's a very interesting reason why, which I'll go into when I go on the number 1 spot. The second spot is the original Star Wars trilogy. And we go, what the fuck? No, why have you put the other one as number 1? But there are reasons behind it. I fucking love the Star Wars trilogy. I don't even need to explain why. He knows why. He's there, and he's just like, me and him grew up on fucking Star Wars, man.
It's a trilogy you don't argue with.
Nah, you watch this, and you just like the arc of Luke Skywalker, even in the first one, but all the way throughout the whole thing, and it's just like, hands down, you're left at the end just like, wow. And the fact that, like, you know, obviously it's been Disney that bought it, but the fact it made this huge franchise, you know, like Lego Star Wars that we used to play with and stuff like that. You know, the books, the comics, the games, Knights of the Republic, one of my favourite games ever. This whole idea of Star Wars, of good versus bad, but in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, everything it brings in terms of lore touches many, many people. I mean, I'm introducing our last Star Wars. We're going to go through from the prequels first.
What do you mean introducing?
She's barely seen them. She's seen them before, but she's not really paid attention. I was like,
what?
Exactly. I was like, why are we together? so yes, that's how much it means to me, obviously. Hands down.
Me and your dad need to watch episode 2 still.
Well, you join us if you want.
Sweet.
We'll get to the first one, yeah. Have a
Only
session.
if Clive's there.
Yeah, Clive will be there. He'll watch it. So just
hang on, whoa, just back up one more second on the thing. You're starting with the prequels.
Yeah, I said to her, what do you want to do? Do you want to do it in order of release?
Abort.
It's her choice.
But the problem is, sorry to sidetrack
set your standards
here.
Low.
No, not set your standards low. One, she's never going to get through 3 films and then love the franchise. You've already ruined it for her. But more importantly, those prequels are made narratively with the understanding that you've seen the original trilogy, so they don't hide the identity of Darth Vader.
All right, okay. I might, yeah.
The existence of those prequels ruins the twist of I am your father.
Okay, well, I'll ask her, see if she knows the twist already. I'll ask her. I'm sure she knows the twist.
It also ruins Yoda, but just put out there.
Yeah, true. But
because it ruins the Yoda twist. That's it. Even if you don't understand the Yoda twist, I fucking love the Yoda twist.
she chose it, so we'll just have to find out.
I'll talk to her, don't you worry.
But this is why it's up there as like one of the best of all time. Go on then.
So, from a galaxy far, far away to the most grounded trilogy on this list, I'd say.
Yeah.
This is the Before Trilogy.
I still need to watch it.
This is Richard Linklater's, probably his magnum opus. You could argue that Boyhood is a singular magnum opus, a film that took 12 years to make. But what he did with the Before Trilogy was that he first made Before Sunrise, and it's about a couple who meet, about a boy and a girl who meet and start to let this romance kind of blossom.
Don't spoil too much.
I won't spoil anything at all. And then what he does is he tells his story, and then 9 years later, not in film time, 9 years later in real time, he revisits it and says, what's happened to these characters 9 years later? And tells another little chapter in their life. And then at the end of that film, again, waits 9 more years and then revisits them and says, 9 years later, what's happened to these characters? And these films are basically constructed with conversation in mind and reflection in mind. Those points in your life where you stop for a moment and you think, how did we get here? And where are we going? And he lets those conversations just play out. He has them wander through these streets in various cities and towns that they're in these points in their life. And he just lets them wander and discuss the world and their feelings and what stuff means to them. And if you don't like a good sort of romantic indie arty film, don't watch these, because they're kind of pretentious up the wazoo. But if you're really into that and you really want to see something very special and very careful and watch actors reflect characters who they've been acting now for 18 years, and even watch people, just forget the characters for a moment, watch people age 18 years and see how even just the aesthetic construct of someone's face changes over time. You'll have one of the most existential moments of your life if you watch these back to back to back like I did.
I knew you need to watch them, yeah.
They are phenomenal.
You've got to give a huge shout out to Ethan Hawke for not only doing this, accepting this job, but also Boyhood as well over 12 years.
Yep.
Fucking well played for all of them.
And there's this lovely question mark at the moment of, will the Before Trilogy become a quadrilogy? Because we're coming up on 9 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be interesting.
So yeah, there's a Before Trilogy. Phenomenal.
My first one, which you probably guess now, is Lord of the Rings. We kind of like both of ours. And I'm going to go straight into it, why this is above the Star Wars trilogy. And I said to myself when I was doing it, I was thinking, hold up a second, well, A New Hope's actually in my top 10 list, and it will always be there. But the Lord of the Rings, none of their films are in my top 10. There's a reason why. This works as a trilogy. The great films alone, but they don't work as a film alone, much like A New Hope works as a film alone. You can watch A New Hope, and you can watch that start to end, and you feel fulfilled. You feel like it's a film that started and ended in some respect. Obviously, there's other factors that kind of lay on for a sequel. But, you go from the start, and then the end happens, and you think, what a great film. With this, you are left on a cliffhanger thinking, where the fuck do they go next? And they go next into the rest of the trilogy. And by God, what trilogy. To the point that every year I always have with my mate Steve, trilogy time. We get together, watch the special extended, all together, start about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midday. We go through the films halfway through the Two Towers and the please insert the other disc. We order takeaway. We always get the old meal deal with a bit of this, bit of that, bit of the other, Parmo, of course. And we eat that for a little bit whilst we're watching the last of it. And last time I watched it, I think I got to the where the climbing up at the end, without spoiling the climb up at the end, and I was like drifting off and out of sleep because it's fucking a long time. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have fucking loads of why I'm watching this because we do
Without spoiling it. Do you think there's anybody out there that hasn't seen Lord of the Rings?
Oh well, I fucking hope not. But my point is, I just want to be best I can, and I have so much attachment to this. This is something that our lass has seen and she absolutely loves. I think she's trying to get herself in a trilogy time tower thing.
That's when you know you've crossed the line.
What they've done and the cast that they've got, what Pete Jackson's created, and to come from the books and how he's put it out so well produced. The locations, the music, the sound, even the CGI in the film, it doesn't look bad. Everything fucking works. And my God, what a fucking amazing series! And I want to watch it again now.
Interesting that your last two, both birthed very disappointing prequel trilogies.
Yeah, Hobbit, and then the prequel, Star Wars.
It's just I find interesting that actually I think young generations are connecting more with Lord of the Rings at the moment than they are with Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. If you go grab any of my students and say Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, they all go Lord of the Rings over Star Wars. Like personally, I would have put Star Wars above Lord of the Rings, just personal choice.
How odd?
It is, isn't it? How odd indeed. My number one. What is it, Andy?
It's the Dollars Trilogy.
It's the Dollars Trilogy.
I've not seen either.
There was a point in my life where I had not seen any Sergio Leone films.
It wasn't too long ago.
That point will forever be marked as pre-Sergio Leone.
/ I've got a summer off.
And / I have a summer off. And now post Sergio Leone is basically my Anno Domini. This is pre and post. Yeah. After seeing this trilogy of films, this is A Fistful of Dollars, a remake of a Akira Kurosawa film called Yojimbo. And then for a few dollars more, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now, I actually drew a line. I almost got real cheeky with this and almost put the Once Upon a Time trilogy on here, which is the set of films he would do afterwards. But they're so tenuously linked that I thought I was clutching a little bit to put them on here. So I settled for the Dollars Trilogy. Similarly, kind of thematically linked. They deal with the same cast of characters playing different roles in each film. They don't carry on chronologically, with the exception that people often argue Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a prequel to the two. And this was Sergio Leone not only finding his feet, but finding his feet almost immediately and then just knocking it out of the park. This was him building a genre, the spaghetti western, and then defining that exact same genre with this and Once Upon a Time in America. And he basically closes the book on it and he's like, good luck, try and do better than that. And in all three of these films, he has the best shootouts in any film. Any film. Like if someone ever makes a top 5 list of best Mexican standoffs in westerns, 4 of those slots are filled by Sergio Leone alone. He masters it. Him and Ennio Morricone are just one of the best duos to have ever worked in cinema ever. And then the casting, the making of Clint Eastwood. He'd worked on Rawhide before this. Like he had a little bit of a name, a little bit of a face to a name. But this is where he became Clint Eastwood. This is where he became the badass. Pre this, even Western heroes were becoming a little bit archetypal, a little bit lame, a little bit too goody-goody.
Too Mad Max.
Too Mad Max.
Even though he's not Western.
And it was Sergio Leone who came along and went, no, what if actually our hero, he's not such a good guy either. And then Clint Eastwood got that and he ran with it and he was like together this was originally it was a very, very low budget production and these guys just built up the character, the world, the style together and it all just sang beautifully. And I think once you see these films, they suddenly become the benchmark by which you judge any other Western. Period.
And potentially action.
Potentially action and most definitely use of music.
Really?
In cinema.
Oh no, really?
So
that's a fucking statement, Andy.
With that controversial statement,
Jesus.
There are our top 10 trilogies of all time. If we forgot any trilogies in cinema, please
fucking end it now.
List them below. Let us know why you think they're better than the ones that are on our list.
We're going to get loads of flack because we missed stuff.
We're going to get so many, but we want to see them because we struggled sometimes with this list. So if there's something obvious that we're missing on there and we haven't seen yet, please let us know below because we want to watch them. So, guys, there's 2 years. Here's another 365 days. And Andy, I'll see you back here next week for an episode of Film Club. Get your fat face watching.
Happy 2 years.
Oh, it happened yet again.
Start to finish.